If I gave it all, if I traded it all, if there's one thing, if there's one thing in this world that I hate more than anything, it would have to be pirates. I cannot stand them. I've never liked them even when I was a young lad. My father would read me stories of pirates sailing along the River Severn from his tall book of yarns. I'm not talking Bubsy, no, no, no. My father claims that my grandfather worked for Captain Turnatable many moons ago. My grandfather never appears in any of the history books regarding Turnatable, so I doubt that it's true. It wasn't until years later that I finally did a simple Google search and learned that my grandfather actually worked for a shipping company which loves to throw their packages at people's windows in order to see if they can catch them. Who wouldn't? Oh my! Where are my manners? Seriously, where are they? Be a dear and look under your chair, please, because I think I might have left them underneath there. Now, before we go on any further, I feel as though it's only fair that I give you my name. My name is Governor Jones, and I am the undisputed big cheese of Lost Heaven. Though my jurisdiction technically only lasts in Lost Heaven, I am conspiring with some out-of-towners to take control of the entire United States and United Kingdom so that I can force my anti-piracy rule onto everyone. I hate pirates. I do not care who knows it. I personally believe that everyone needs to follow my view, as I believe that a world without pirates will be a world worth living in. Now, I bet you've probably got a bunny under that backwards red cap of yours, and by that I, of course, mean you're probably now wondering why I hate pirates so much. Well, pull up a barrel full of fish, and I'll tell you, my little son of wood. My hatred of pirates comes from a really bad experience that I had down on the rivers in Lost Heaven. First, being the time that my bunkmate from Fordham, Fleet McBeat, took me on a pleasure cruise with him on his boat all around the beautiful Lost Heaven countryside. Sadly, our trip was cut very short after Fleet's boat ended up getting raided by a band of pirates who were led by someone I think we all know. It was Colonel Dodo, of course. Dodo and his now ex-accountant Captain Hook, who demanded that Fleet McBeat and I give up our ship to them. We'll never give in, I barked angrily at the very top of my lungs. Yeah, that's the top of my lungs. But Flea McBeat didn't seem to mind, as he'd become busy doing himself in the neck hole. Quickly realizing that I was not going to be budged easily, Captain Hook and Dodo opted to stuff me inside of a Primark bag and had me and Fleet thrown onto a truck, which was being driven by the dumbest truck driver you'd ever see. May as well have been a cuck driver, if you know what I mean. And if you don't know, don't look it up. Fleet and I were taken to the Golden Koi, where the chef planned to throw Fleet alive into an oven. But when I suggested that was very inhumane and also a ripoff of the biblical story of Daniel in the fiery furnace, the chef instead offered to marinate Fleet into Grandmother Edgar's private select smoking honey creme sauce. I eventually got out from the bag and formally introduced myself, and the chef immediately backed down and returned Fleet to me. Leaving the restaurant, I was tempted to have a nuke dropped on it, but I decided against it as the Golden Koi makes the best damn egg rolls in the entire city. Golden Cobra. Of course, that wasn't the first time that I've had a bad experience involving the pirates. Not too long after that incident with Colonel Dodo in the Lost Heaven countryside, I decided to take out a loan from the Bikini Bottom Mint. While at the Mint, I, of course, ended up finding myself right in the middle of a massive bank heist, which was being performed by an incredibly sinister pirate named Captain Steele. Steele was everything that Colonel Dodo hoped to be, and that's the Governor Joe's truth. Steele was a big brute of a man. He didn't take kindly to mischief. He once killed a member of his crew just for singing Happy Birthday to Steele on a birthday where he believed that everyone had forgotten about him. But they hadn't. Oh, they hadn't. That bastard Steele is so evil that he ate cereal without milk, although that's actually because he's quite seriously lactose intolerant. I'm slobbering all over myself as I say this. Despite being lactose intolerant, Steele will sometimes chug a glass of milk down in order for his gut to become swollen. Having a swollen gullet makes Steele feel very empowered somehow. He learned from a nature documentary on National Geographic that frogs puff their guts out in order to frighten away any potential enemies, and Steele decided to try that trick out himself. Steele had his crew raid the vault while he handled the hostages, including yours truly.
Please let me go. I don't care about anyone else, but please let me go.
I begged as tears began to form in my ass. Steele tapped on my forehead with his dagger as he said in a very threatening tone of voice, "Start talking, Cookie." Oh, Steele was also a known cannibal, and he planned on baking me in a cookie dough with help from his lover, who just happens to be a creepy, smelly goose with dyed blue hair. Think ghosts! I've never been so scared in my whole entire life. Only real men can admit to being scared, and I truly was. I mean it, I really was. I thought Steele was going to kill me, or at the very least make me into cookie dough, when the entire Bikini Bottom SWAT team came crashing through the windows of the bank. "Under the bridge!" Steele yelled as he began gunning officers down with his double-barrel shotgun. And everybody jumps from the sound of a shotgun. In my neighborhood, everybody's got one. Steele and his men made their way out of the Bikini Bottom Mint by using the fire exit. Once outside on the streets, Steele and his boys hitched a ride on a police helicopter, which was owned by a SWAT commander who was on Steele's payroll, and for big money, too. £5.76. That doesn't make sense.
You won't get away with this, Steele.
I yelled at the top of my lungs as I made my way out of the bank and attempted to jump onto the helicopter. I actually managed to latch onto the ladder dangling down below from the helicopter, but I couldn't quite reach the top as Steele ended up stepping on my fingers with his nasty... Sorry, tinnitus. Shoe, which was covered in brown paint. I certainly hoped it was brown paint, not an electric magnetic pulse sensor 9000 or piece of shit. That's when I would have been truly worried. Hey kid, take my advice. You don't want to end up stepping in a big pile of shit. I ended up falling toward the cold, hard ground, but I thankfully cushioned my landing by instead turning myself midair toward the direction of the council estate. Once in the estate, I ended up falling down someone's chimney, and the rest is history. And now you have the story of Santa Claus. Hope you're fucking happy, bitch. Following these two horrid experiences, I've been trying my absolute best to get piracy banned by making a petition. Change.org. Unfortunately, I cannot write as I don't believe in pens and pencils, so I try my best to instead write by using strawberry jam. Sadly, I failed to take into account the fact that most people I know can't stand strawberry jam. Oh, fuck, shit, farty butts. I mean cigarette. How could I ever have been so stupid as to write my petition in strawberry jam? Although, granted, one man seemed to love my letter, picked it up and smiled before nodding for a good 20 minutes. Weirdo. And stuck the letter up to his nose and got up from his chair without ever saying another word. Gave me a wink as he did so. He's probably into me. I couldn't be too sure, but there seemed to be something awfully familiar about that man. He had no left hand and a striking-looking mustache. Maybe it was my father. Interesting. It's getting real dad vibes. That evening, I got home to my mansion over in Bongo Hills and flopped out of my bed ready to binge-watch some Netflix. I heard someone ringing my bell. Oh, ringing my bell. And it wasn't the pizza man, I tell you what. Reaching said door, I opened it, but there was no one there. Looking down toward the ground, I found a small letter just sitting there covered in pineapple juice. I picked the letter up and held my candle over it in order to see what it said. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was a letter addressed to me from the Tamil Kings. They had seen my petition, and they agreed with everything I wrote on there. They too wished to see piracy wiped out. They asked if I'd like to attend a meeting with them up at the Old Oak just past Granite Pass. Who are the Tamil Kings? They control the Union, I think. Fuckers. Well, no one actually knows anything about them. There's just one thing that I and everyone does know, however, and that is you never fuck with the Tamil Kings. Don't you ever try to fuck them. You might get STDs. Getting myself over to Granite Pass was going to be no small feat, and knowing this, I opted to hitch a ride with another classmate of mine from Fordham, Mogans, or more appropriately, Captain Mogans, as he likes to go by now. Old Mogans was a very cynical man. Always had been. He used to laugh at me and Fleet McBeat when we got beat up by members of the student union who claimed we owed them cups of tea and scones. We never owed them such a thing. Logan still owned an old boat from his days of sailing in the Royal Navy, and he gave me a lift to Granite Pass for free. Actually, he tried to charge me, but that was until I threatened to expose his gambling habits to the shipmasters over at Port Royal, who would happily revoke Mogan's boating license. Are you blackmailing me, son? Mogans asked as he pulled the boat to shore. Yes, I am, I proclaimed as I got out from the boat and made my way onto the dock. Mogans was already hated by the shipmasters for gambling with pigs. The pigs belonged to Uncle Boris, who used to be a shipmaster until he went mad. Too much pink custard will do that to you. I made my way through the mountainous ranges behind Granite Pass, which connected to Walnut Pass. I eventually reached the aforementioned old oak, or rather the old stump, as it were no oak. Not anymore. Ain't no joke. Sorry, that got dark real fast. No, I sat down on the stump to take a dump, as I think Mogans had slipped laxatives into my tea before we shipped out. I remember Mogans laughing hysterically at me as I drank my hot sweet tea down. Spiking my tea with laxatives? Mogans, you've changed. Actually, no, you've always been a crooked bastard, even for guys in your line of work. Suddenly, a foul odor entered my nostrils as I fell into a deep slumber. Awaking several hours later, I found myself on a pirate ship far from home. I couldn't move as I was stuck to the floor in this really disgusting honey-like goop as the door to the captain's quarters finally opened up, revealing not the Tamil Kings, not Mogans, but none other than Colonel Dodo himself, accompanied by his first mate, Raison Man, and my ex-trusted Captain Hook. I still say we should tie him up, Dodo, the Raison Man said as he began touching up my hair. Colonel Dodo raised my face to look at his as he asked in a very condescending tone of voice, "Oh, did you hurt yourself?" As a matter of fact, yes, I did. Let me go, Dodo. I already have some choice words for you in my new anti-piracy law gets approved. And you really don't want to anger me any further now, do you? Do you, punk? Well, that didn't work. Raison Man pulled up a barrel, which Colonel Dodo then sat me on as he looked at me with the smelliest face you'd ever see. And believe me, I know a smelly face. Captain Hook, meanwhile, left the boat briefly to go inside a shed located on the port. Returning to the ship, Colonel Dodo ordered Raison Man to set sail for Empire Bay. Meanwhile, Captain Hook busied himself by setting up a massive projector, took a large film reel out from his hat, as he then looked at me with a cheesy grin like some kind of, "Gosh, Goofy." Suddenly, some guy selling orange juice and playing an accordion came dancing by on a rowing boat beside us. Regular occurrence. Captain Hook groaned heavily as he pulled out his double-barrel revolver and shot that man right in the head, killing him instantly. I then tried my best to bargain with Dodo and Hook, but they were having none of it. "I can't do that," Colonel Dodo said before continuing with, "If I let you go, you'll go blabbing straight to the Daily Order. No, I can't have that, me bucko. That's why we brought you onto my ship, so you can finally learn the true meaning of the word pirate." Dodo had said the last part in a little song, which made me chuckle, albeit a little uneasily. Finally taking notice of the projector, I asked, "So, Cornelius, what's with—" I was rudely cut off as Captain Hook said, "We're about to show you America, a little movie myself and Dodo made.
It's a Muppet Treasure Island reel, cut with edits made by yours truly.
Captain Hook explained that he had no reason to come back to Dodo's side, but when he heard about my plans to ban pirates from the face of the earth, he had the sense to realize that his B&B would come under serious fire. Though a respected accountant and stockbroker now, Captain Hook was still at his very core a butt pirate. I added the butt part. Because, fuck Captain Hook. There weren't no change in that fact. So Captain Hook gave his old pal Colonel Cornelius Dodo a ring-a-ding-ding-dong-dong-dong like a crazy frog. The pair conspired to get me onto Dodo's ship by claiming to be the Tamil Kings. Now, I really do like the Muppets. I mean, really, truly, truly, I do. When I was training to become a governor, I actually did some work experience under a senator named Mr. Pez. Mr. Pez was a very weird man and not at all dispensable, who kept repeating the word do over and over again. He was obsessed with the Muppets, even though he only owned one movie and 3 other DVDs related to the Muppets, but regardless of that fact, he claimed to be the Muppets' biggest fan. Mr. Pez claimed he saw Kermit the Frog in a dream once. Kermit had gangrene forming on his head as he looked at Mr. Pez and said, "You're quite the dispenser, Mr. Pez." This inspired Mr. Pez to name an entire valley up near Fort Wallace Kermit Valley. Oh, and I'm quite impartial to the Muppets. I like them in small doses, but in truth, as a child, I was scared by Gonzo the Great and his beaky nose. See a bird or an alien? Is anyone, what the fuck is a canon at this point? I used to have nightmares about that beaky nose of his. Gonzo would appear at my bedside and squirt water out from his nose at me as if it was a tap.
"Here's one for the history books, Jones,"
Gonzo would laugh. Bastard. Blue bastard. Hope he gets blue balls. Unpleasant Gonzo-related memories aside, I was actually quite looking forward to seeing Muppets Treasure Island. It was actually my second favorite Muppet movie. Second only to Muppet Christmas Carol, of course. I then asked Colonel Dodo for a glass of scotch pre-war, but he instead responded by throwing a brick at me. Must have just misheard me, it happens. Smoke came out from the projector as a sick clip came on screen which showcased a snowman trapped inside of a freezer. He waved at the screen as he then said, "Fuck you." The film then finally started by, of course, having Kermit the Frog's face appear on screen. Kermit's face took up the whole screen. It was so close I could see Kermit's nose hair. The joyful music playing in the background was instead replaced with very low-key trumpet sounds and the sound of a man taking a shit in a trash can. Probably should have used a tuba for that one. I do so wonder if it was perhaps Richard Bagg, but I had no time to dwell on such thoughts as the film started with some pirates loading treasure up onto an island. This was by far the best part of the film to me. My joy was cut short when the film cut to show a really boring meeting between all the pirates and Captain Flint. Flint was discussing on what to do with the gold, and he kept touching some pirates who were dressed up as stereotypical Mexican wrestlers. Enchiladas, refried beans, mole sauce. Sorry, I got distracted. I do that sometimes. Ultimately, Flint suggested that he and the other pirates go for a walk in the mountains. The other pirates agreed happily. They walked for a while until they ended up walking into Crocodile Gulch. Once in Crocodile Gulch, every single pirate found themselves getting eaten. They were eaten even quicker when one of the pirates insulted Crockmore Kinner, a former smoking advocate who gets very angry when people mention his past of selling tobacco. Kinner had wanted to have Flint killed, but both he and first mate Billy Bones had disappeared into the sunset. Anyway, in present day, Jim Hawkins is shown having tea with his fam, and he didn't look right. In actuality, old Jimmy had been replaced by a mop who sounded like someone in the choir. Mrs. Blueveridge walks into the table and places a large and quite frankly disgusting-looking fry up in front of Jim Hawkins, Gonzo, and Rizzo. Rizzo picked at the fry up, while Gonzo gave it a good whiff, which caused his nose to start spinning uncontrollably.
"Holy buggering buggerton, that smells off,"
Gonzo whined as he held his beaky nose in despair. I shuddered at the sight of Gonzo. The very sight of him was enough to bring back some rather unpleasant memories from long ago, and yet not so very long ago. I tried to break free, but the sticky honey wrapped around me sadly prevented that from happening. The trio were able to avoid eating the fry up by shoving sausages up Gonzo's nose. I don't like the fellow, but don't you think that's a little drastic? The scene then cut to show an outside view of the Admiral Benbow Inn. Jim Hawkins expressed his desires for something better as normal. Rizzo pointed at Gonzo and said, "And Gonzo's a whatever." For some odd-ass reason, the trio then proceeded to stare intently at the screen as if I needed to laugh at the joke before they'd allow for the film to press forward. I eventually faked a pity snicker, which allowed for the film to continue as normal. Returning upstairs, Jim Hawkins was horrified to see that his homie Billy Bones had eaten the fry up and he was now dying from a severe case of indigestion. Serves him right. "Oh, Jimmy Jam!" Billy cried as he grabbed a hold of Gonzo's nose. He grabbed the nose with so much force that he ended up yanking the bloody thing off. Can we call with the Gonzo abuse a bit, guys? I may start a trust fund for Gonzo's in need. I said earlier I may hate Gonzo, but this was just going a tad bit too far if we're being honest here, people. After Billy Bones then lets out a massive fart and dies. All right. Jim Hawkins and the others found themselves held at gunpoint by a band of pirates. Thinking quickly, Gonzo produced the Molotov cocktail as he yelled, "Eat this, suckers!" He threw the cocktail up in the air and ended up doing nothing. "Luckily, I got an ace in the hole," Rizzo said as he made his way over to Billy Bones' bedside table. He tapped on the side of the table 3 times as a huge flood of rats all came pouring out from the various drawers. Underneath the bed, even more rats appeared, and all the rats swarmed around the pirates. The pirates begged for fish and chips, or maybe even some of Mrs. Blueridge's fry-up, but Jim responded by throwing a brick at them. Well, I guess he didn't miss here. Heading outside the inn, the trio decided to go and pay Fozzie Bear a visit at his crib over in London. The following day, the trio arrived at Fonzie's crib, which was a rundown McDonald's. What else? You had your break today? I feel like my spine's breaking just thinking about all this shit. Fozzie was chilling in a booth with his homie. He looked an awful lot like George Washington and sounded like he was 198 years old, so maybe it was. He also kept yapping on and on about how he lived in Waterloo during the Tomato Sauce War. Jim then asked Fozzie about getting a boat, but Fozzie told Jim that there were no boats on sale, S-A-I-L. But he could try hitching a ride with Kermit the Frog. Don't test me. I'm aware that the characters have different names in this film, but I will continue to refer to them by their Muppet names or else the country's done for. Life aboard the Hispaniola got off to a bad start, and this was primarily as a result of Sam the Eagle having a thing for Gonzo. He forced Gonzo to scrub the floor of the boat, the poop deck perhaps. Well, sure did smell, and gave Gonzo a right good kick up the arsehole. Turning around to confront Sam, Gonzo looked very cross, to which Sam responded by pulling, tinnitus again. Pulling the smuggest face you'd ever see. I'm gonna punch myself in the ear. That'll do it. I'm gonna bleed out green ecto cooler from my oral cavity. That means ear, not what you think it is. What the fuck are you thinking about, punk? You know, Sam loved kicking people up the arsehole, as this was how he got kicked out of the Union. People in the Union treated Sam with very little respect, so he got his own back by kicking each member up the arsehole. I expected this kind of behavior from someone like Rizzo the Rat, but I never would expect this from you, Sam. Eventually, a Rolls Royce pulled up on the road beside the boat, and who should come out of the Rolls Royce but none other than Kermit the Frog himself. Kermit walked onto the boat farting violently as he did so much to Sam's shock. I guess they all ate a bunch of canned baked beans before the film. He looked really disgusted as the scene cut to the part where he and Kermit performed the roll call. While Kermit and Sam were doing the roll call, Jim Hawkins made his way below deck where he ran into Long John Silver, who was not very pleased to see him. Silver threatened to use Hawkins to clean the floor, but that's when he smiled an iconic Tim Curry grin in order to show that it was actually a red herring. "What are you doing here?" Hawkins questioned, to which Silver then responded by explaining that he was hunting for stolen credit cards. I used to have 7, he could have one of mine. He believed that Kermit was using a counterfeit. boating license, and he wanted to get some proof of his claims. Above deck, the roll call scene was very weird. Very weird indeed. For starters, this really weird spider named Leonard attempted to hijack the roll call by singing a little song. He donned a pair of shades and sang, "Let me tell you a story about a little mouse. She was right here in this house." I don't know, there was some other shit, I don't remember. So Leonard was the only one trying to impress Kermit with his singing, as a trio of really annoying and quite frankly very smelly pigeons also tried to butt in with their own singing. It was really cringy, and I think Kermit felt the same way as he grimaced violently as the pigeons and Leonard sung their hearts out to him. Apparently Kermit was a massive liar. In order to get more people onto his boat, Kermit and Sam drove around the streets of London telling people they were going to be holding a singing competition. That's how they were able to attract the interest of the likes of Leonard and the pigeons. Realizing that Kermit had been playing him for a fool, Leonard attempted to get off the boat, only to become horrified when he saw the boat on the right left shore. Oh no! Not wanting to run the risk of having a mutiny on the Bounty on his hands, Kermit promised Leonard and the pigeons that when the ship reached Treasure Island, they'd be allowed to sing their hearts out. Fozzie then held up his finger, which had ginkgo pura olive oil all over it, as he asked, "What was that, Mr. Bimble? Waka waka waka." I really hate the Mr. Bimble joke this movie goes for. Makes Fozzie seem like a real custard maker. Anyway, thankfully John Silver stabbed Fozzie in the back and laughed hysterically as he fell into the floor and started singing like Pavarotti. Sang a song about how bears sometimes get the shit in the media, but they shouldn't let that put them down. With Fozzie thankfully disposed of, Kermit finally introduced himself to Jim Hawkins, demanded an audience with Hawkins in the captain's quarters. Suddenly, a large prison boat crashed to the side of the ship. The prison boat was transporting prisoners from London to Treasure Island. It used to store prisoners during these times. Sadly, the stubborn warden of the boat, Warden Ermy, failed to bring a map with him despite pressure from his homies to do so. Using a rope, Warden Ermy made his way onto the ship as he asked, "Where the seahorse are we?" "You, sir, are trespassing." Oh no, overly threatening Welsh farmer 9245 said this while pointing a double-barrel shotgun at Ermy, who responded with, "We need somewhere to keep these prisoners before they get any bright ideas." Sensing an opportunity, John Silver opted to allow Ermy to move his prisoners onto the ship. Also, Ermy was not alone, as he was accompanied by SWAT Commander James Kent. "Wait a second. This would go great with some milk." Sorry about that, love, but this damn Muppet film appears to be breaking me. And also, as you may have remembered from earlier, I'm Santa Claus now. I meant to say that I recognize that fucking SWAT commander as being the same SWAT commander who helped Captain Steele and his boys raid the Bikini Bottom Mint all those moons ago. So as you can clearly see, it's all coming together. Kent and Ermy started to butt heads on whether they should stay on the boat or not, as Kent wanted to set sail for Tortuga, which is hosting the annual pancake eating competition. Good. Sadly, Kent was quite the sadistic bastard, as he loved to set people on fire while they tried to eat their own damn pancakes. It was just a little too respectful, that damn SWAT commander, Kent James. Or like Gent Kames, or Kent Lames. Continuing on. I then asked for Captain Hook to do a Google search on James Kent, and from there I learned that James actually, a little bit of history with Muppets. He actually signed on to play John Cena. Didn't see that coming. An unreleased Muppet project entitled Muppet Wrestling, which was scheduled to release in 2006, perhaps with an Xbox video game release coinciding. But after the abysmal ratings that Muppets Wizard of Oz received, the project was canceled. James had spent a great deal of time training at the gym to achieve the right physique to portray Cena in the film, but sadly it was just not meant to be. Returning to the film, Silver and Jim Hawkins had a heart-to-heart chat about how Hawkins once saw Rizzo eating his own brother because rats are fucking monsters. They don't just take pieces of pizza out the New York subway, despite what the memes may tell you. And Silver expressed his desires to buy his very own damn hotel in NYC, the city that never sleeps. Or Vegas, or some shit. I don't know. New York City, Vegas, same shit. While that was going on, the rest of Kermit's crew were busy eating in the mess hall. Kermit's head chef, Mr. Chin, was very evil, not the Swedish chef, as he had laced the spaghetti with, I can relate to this shit, literally shit. Laxatives. Oh man, this is really good! Gonzo proclaimed as he used his nose to slurp up some of the noodles. This made me feel incredibly uneasy. Don't do this to me, Gonzo! I just got done defending you earlier, remember? Mr. Chin was very cunning as he knew that bathroom breaks were forbidden by Kermit, but all the characters ended up shitting all over the mess hall, much to Mr. Chin's delight. Forgive me, Mr. Chin laughed as he began searching through some haystacks in order to find the correct equations to an incredibly complex mathematics exam he took in 2007. He hated the fact that he turned down the offer to go to Mathemagic Land as it was the only reason he ever passed that damn exam. Some story. Some chin. Rub that chin. All right, partner. Keep on rolling. You know what time it is. Some days passed, and all the characters were beginning to become restless, and this is when the Cabin Fever song started to play. It made me sick. Very sick. During Cabin Fever, Billy Bob Tanley was shown drinking a beer as a demon ogre Muppet came on screen dressed in drag. A demon drag Muppet was singing all about a place where the passion fruit grows sweet. Oh, I'm sure that's not a metaphor. He sang this because he was very high on Grandmother Edgar's patterned creme. Tanley, meanwhile, looked at the screen and raised his sunglasses before belling, "Why is this, a PJ movie?" Oh, be quiet, Tanley. I'm getting really sick of you. Sorry, but I know fully well Tanley is involved with pirates, as I heard from my informants that he sells 5 kegs of beer to Colonel Dodo in exchange for huge cash rewards. With these rewards, Tanley plans to, I don't know, buy more beer, I guess. That evening, John Silver decides it's finally time to take proactive about his desires to expose Kurt's counterfeiting. Paid a visit to Sam the Eagle, who was smoking coke, if that's possible, in the recently cleaned mess hall with Sir Topham Hatt and Sam the Conductor. Sam the Conductor wasn't feeling very well as he'd been assigned to look after Diesel, who was very much against Sam's relationship with a fireman, who ironically doesn't put out fires, but rather puts coal inside trains so that the flame may burn. If not up his arsehole, but when is it my turn? Ahem. Sorry about that. Anyway, Silver basically just told Sam to fuck off. And who could blame him? The boat pulled up at the old abandoned dockyards where a carriage was waiting to take Sam away. Sam got into the carriage only to learn to his chagrin that the carriage was filled with lady wrestlers. Sorry, Sam. This is Chicken Town. Just ask Gonzo. He's got a thing for them. With Sam gone, John Silver realized that he was going to need a little help from his friends. Who knows, maybe he would go on to form a fast food fish restaurant. To be continued. Below deck, several rogue crew members, including the aforementioned Billy Bob Tanley and Demon Ogre Muppet, let's just call him that, along with several other previously unseen characters, including Gareth Smelnick, Mighty Eagle, really scary-looking Scarecrow didn't speak, but he longed to get revenge against Kermit after he pulled a dastardly trick on them. All right, story time. You see, one day Kermit took a walk along the fields and decided to put a pack of Starbursts in the pocket of an unsuspecting Scarecrow. See you go, mate, Kermit proclaimed happily as he then skipped down the field, farting violently as he did so. And let me tell you, if you've never smelled a frog's fart, it's something vicious. It'll make you croak. The Scarecrow tried to reach for the Starburst, but ended up falling down on the ground, all the while yelling, "Shot!" How could Kermit ever stoop so low as to give Starburst to a Scarecrow? Oh, the McNugget buddies were also there, but they looked really scared. John Silver looked over at Mighty Eagle as he asked,
"Hey, Mighty Eagle, why are the McNugget buddies so scared?"
Because they're chicken. That made my tinnitus act up. Mighty Eagle laughed as he started twerking in front of the Demon Ogre Muppet, who was busy trying to play Shrek 2 on the Xbox. Not a bad choice, though personally I'd have gone for Shark Tale. Wink. The following day at dawn, Kermit was dismayed to learn from Silver and Gonzo that Sam had gone to the Golden Koi in order to pick up some egg rolls. "Oh, boogering boogerton," Kermit cried as he then continued with, "But with our beloved Sparrow gone, who, pray tell, will lead us onward in our search for Treasure Island?"
"Allow me,"
John Silver proclaimed, while resting his foot atop an old fish barrel, which was filled with, actually, it wasn't fish. I guess it was this wimp rat juice. He was also pulling the smuggest face you'd ever seen or hoped to see. Then again, I don't know you personally, so maybe I shouldn't say that. Who knows? Maybe you would. Okay, so the film then did a really weird cut to the part where Kermit, Gonzo, and Rizzo go onto Treasure Island to save Jim Hawkins, only end up getting captured themselves by a band of smelly pigs who are led by Miss Piggy and her lead enforcer, Oinky Oinkerson. Oh, hello, love, Kermit proclaimed as he began running toward Miss Piggy in slow motion. Miss Piggy glared at Kermit and gave him a swift kick to the face, which sent him flying across the entire fricking island. Kermit ended up falling inside a Venus flytrap-looking plant, which was filled with green battery acid. It stunk so bad that we could actually smell it through the projector like a frog's fart. Colonel Dodo had bought the projector from Smellovision.com. I pulled a red handkerchief out from my ear and held it up to my mouth in an attempt to stop myself from vomiting. I also used it as a fetish apparition. Moving on. Captain Hook was not so lucky as he ran off to the poop deck in order to vomit his guts out. Or maybe just vomit out the meatball sub he had for lunch. In truth, the meatball sub was the real cause of Hook's vomiting, as the damn thing had maggots in it. You know, the maggots sing you Christmas songs as you eat them. I'm getting distracted. I apologize profusely for that. In any case, Miss Piggy then tied Kermit up to an old rusty-looking BBQ, and she forced him to eat a human toe. Yeah, well, joke's on her. Kermit quite liked the taste. We'd quite honestly have to be threatened under pain of death to give it a star on Yelp. Oh, and then Sam appears out of thin air in order to remind Kermit to pay his gas bill or some shit. I don't know. Probably something to do with the farting. Seriously, though, Kermit, you really need to eat a sandwich. Back on the Hispaniola, Silver's crew became very angry with him because the treasure chest they got was full of gold. But they didn't want gold. No. They wanted some of Scrooge McDuck's washing, as McDuck was known to put his clothes in the treasure chest and having them buried at sea in order to avoid having to pay the ridiculous, ludicrous laundry bills. Yet Scrooge owned the laundromats that did all the work, so who, pray tell, is the real bad guy in this situation, and why did ducks wear clothes? Suddenly, Silver noticed something shining at the bottom of the chest, and he reached inside the chest, pushing past all the piles of golden salad plates, till he eventually came across Kermit's boating license. Silver took the card with him in the captain's quarters and placed it onto a weird-looking machine, which in turn told him that the card was in fact a forgery. Silver then smiled the most Tim Curry smile that has ever been smiled as he proclaimed, "Bingo stingo!" Oh, Tim Curry, even in bootleg Muppet form, you're still such a delight. Not knowing that Kermit had been counterfeiting when he gave them express orders not involved in the trade, the crew of the Hispaniola once again found themselves working for Silver, much to my chagrin. "Fuck her, man," Tanley bellowed as he then proceeded to rage quit right out of the film. He jumped off the boat into the crystal blue ocean below, but Tanley can't swim. Well, isn't that why they call it Murphy's Law? No, it fucking isn't. Whew, I need to calm down. All right, I'm good now. Returning to Treasure Island, Silver and his crew took Kermit and Miss Piggy captive, all the while offering Hawkins a place in his crew as a glorified errand boy of sorts. Hawkins' job would be to pick up milk and eggs, but not bread. No storms involved from Tesco, shit like that. Hawkins understandably turned the offer down, which led to Silver hiring the Onceler in his place. The Onceler was ordered to kill Kermit and Miss Piggy via hanging, but instead of doing that, he tried to sing to the bear about how they needed to buy his need. Everybody needs a thing, indeed. It's revolutionary, guaranteed, the Onceler sang. Just as Kermit and Piggy thought they were going to die, they were shot down from the ropes by SWAT Commander Kent James. Kermit thanked James for his help, only for James to then hold them at gunpoint. "I never liked ye, Kermit," Kent James threatened as he then revealed that he and Miss Piggy had dated briefly back in the summertime, all summers back when the sky was blue and no one had to pay for air. When James learned that Miss Piggy was already in a committed relationship with Kermit and just wanted to be friends, James went apeshit, wanted to kill Kermit no matter what. Of course, James didn't get to kill Kermit. He ended up getting shot in the shoulder by Gonzo, who squeezed his nose like an air horn. James was then arrested by port authorities, as were the rest of Silver's crew, aside from Mighty Eagle, that is. Mighty Eagle managed to escape justice by impressing the port authorities with his rad dancing skills. Mighty Eagle started twerking toward Gonzo, who started tugging at his shirt collar rather violently, as the old Gonzo does indeed have a thing for Mighty Eagle. So the papers were indeed true. But what do you expect from a guy who likes to fuck chickens? I don't know if that was supposed to be kept secret or not. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that he talked about that in an episode of the Muppet Show once. Yep, definitely did. Our heroes and their celebration were cut short as the evil Scarecrow's homies appeared on the scene. 125 Scarecrows started walking down the hills surrounding the island, but the gang managed to escape just in time. Once back on board the Hispaniola, Silver was forced by newly elected Captain Hawkins to go into his self-imposed exile.
"Oh, kill me!"
Silver proclaimed happily, then proceeded to shoot Kermit in the chest, killing him instantly. Leaving the Hispaniola, Silver rowed his boat all the way to the Big Apple, Vegas. That was once in NYC. Silver took part in a farce stage show called Don't Feed the Bees, which is all about a bunch of cynical beekeepers who work for a drag queen who wishes for the keepers to kill bees for her. The show was one giant farce, but it made Silver a killing after he performed the show a record-breaking 1,000 times on Broadway. You thought B-Movie was weird. Using the funds made from the show, Silver bought the Plaza Hotel and made it the base of his operations. But sadly, as the years passed, Silver grew to become more untrustworthy. Tinnitus. Untrustworthy, if you will. And I hope you will, if everyone he sees, well, not be like that. That would suck. You'll want to actually do that. That's part of the story. He suspected everyone and everything of being a major counterfeiter, even when there was no evidence to support this fact. The final shot of the film was the Hispaniola sailing towards the sunset, only to eventually blow up. Ken James had placed some dynamite underneath the boat in a last-ditch effort to kill Kermie, but this was a deleted scene, of course. Wait a second. Why the fuck did they cut that part out? Conspiracy. Using a spatula, Raison Man and Captain Hook were able to pry me out from the very sticky and, quite frankly, very smelly honey.
"Well, what did you think?"
Colonel Dodo asked as he placed a pipe into mine in his mouth.
"It was disgusting. I'm never going to ban piracy now."
I bellowed at the very top of my lungs. Colonel Captain, he really just likes to be called Colonel. Colonel Dodo went to go and say something when all of a sudden a massive harpoon was shot right through the projector screen. I fell to the floor in pain and tried to gain my bearings when pirates started storming onto Dodo's boats. These pirates were led by none other than John Steele himself. Steele placed me inside of a large Tesco carrier bag as he proclaimed,
"Nice to see you again, Governor Jones."
Not wanting to lose his chances getting me to forego banning piracy from the face of the earth, Colonel Dodo decided to challenge Steele to a singing competition.
"You're on, but we'll let the governor decide the winner,"
Steele said as he threw me out from the Tesco carrier bag. Raison Man, meanwhile, brought out a large red sitting chair for me to sit on. It wasn't the shit on, I'll tell you that much. If you hoped it was, there's something wrong with you. But there's something wrong with us all when you think about it. It really is. Anyway. I took in some of the salty sea air as I watched in awe as Colonel Dodo, Captain Hook, and Raison Man all dressed up like members of the Beatles and made a makeshift stage appear. Dodo was dressed up like John Lennon, Hook was dressed as George Harrison, Raison Man was dressed as Ringo Starr, while Stowaway Tick was playing Paul McCartney. Where the hell were Pete Best and Stu Sutcliffe? That's bullshit. They sang a cover rendition of the songs Here Comes the Sun and With a Little Help from My Friends. The singing of Colonel Dodo and his crew had changed me. I realized that maybe I was wrong all this time. Maybe piracy is not the real evil. No, the real evil is those damn bootlegs. That, my friends, is the only true evil in this world. After finishing their little Beatles cover album, I clapped very loudly, much to the chagrin of Raison Man, who loathed the clapping. He wanted it banned. I then announced that I did not wish to hear Steele's song, as I had made my decision. I was not going to ban piracy after all. I was then finally allowed off the boat, but before leaving, Hook placed his hook onto my shoulder as he warned me not to be deceived by appearances. I told him I would not, and I finally stood upon dry land once again. Looking to thank Colonel Dodo for the changes he made to me as a person, I decided to reward Dodo with his very own statue in Trafalgar Square. I've been wasting copious amounts of government money on things for myself. You know how it is. I was bored to build the statue from scratch using only raw sewage. Yeah, I talk about shit a lot. You want to talk shit? I do. Upon seeing his statue for the first and only time, actually, Colonel Dodo's eyes began to water with happiness. That could have also been because of the horrid smell. I thought happiness was a warm gun. That's a Beatles song. Look it up. Eventually, a Dr. Pepper can, what is Guns N' Roses getting involved now, fell from the statue, which attracted the attention of a police officer who has his own theme song, which plays whenever he gives someone a ticket. The officer slapped a community service ticket right on Colonel Dodo's beak. Did the same thing to Captain Hook and Raisin Man. Ha ha, suckers! Steele laughed, was busy eating a sandwich on a nearby bench. Well, that's when he made a big mistake by throwing the box the sandwich came in onto the ground instead of the wastebasket. The officer came and gave Steele a ticket, meaning he would now have to do community service as well. Whew. Scary stuff. Well, my quest to get Lost Media banned isn't going very well, as no one has much respect for me after I ultimately decided to boycott my anti-pirate stance. People refuse to take me seriously anymore. So what does a simple governor like me to do? Personally, I hated that Muppets Treasure Island bootleg with a flaming bowl, not barrel of passion. But hindsight, I have to at least give it this. You know, it taught me that Lost Media is not something to be laughed about, and that it is Lost Media, not piracy, that is the true evil in this world. And that, my friends, is truly food for thought. And now, if you'll excuse me, it's time for me to have lunch with the mayor. It's not the sort of thing I like doing, but, you know, I got to keep up appearances somehow. Wink, 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 wink. Tinnitus. Ta-ra for now, friends, and just remember, never let a stranger shit in the house, unless, of course, he has a counterfeit credit card.